Okay. Hi everyone, this is SmithyQ, SmithyQ.com, and I'm here finally with another video analysis. I apologize. Some people have messaged me. I know I haven't made a video in about a month. I apologize for that. Sometimes life gets in the way, or life gets really hectic, or sometimes life makes you work 60 hours a week plus. And chess goes on the back burner a little bit. But hopefully this will make it up for you. I played a game recently. I just finished it, a few days ago. This was in an online tournament. It was daily. It was correspondence chess. It's quite interesting. It's quite a rare for me, I suppose. I did a pretty nice attack. I want to show it. And I'm going to explain this game in two ways. First is I'm going to look at just from the ideas, how I was thinking, what I was thinking, and not so much calculations and variations, but the overall strategical motifs, I suppose, the positional analysis, what I did. And then, because this was really popular, I'm going to then reverse engineer the mating attack at the end. So we're going to get the best of both worlds, I hope. We get the positional analysis, then also the deep tactical breakdown. So let's take a look. The opening here, I was white. It was E4, D5. Got the Scandinavian. This is something I played for many years as black, actually. My opponent played knight F6. Now, normally, there's about 1,000 ways to play against this. My preferred way has always been c4. And then after c6 or e6, you don't accept the pawn, no. You'd play d4, reach a position like this. I've always had pretty good success with these type of isolated pawn positions. Another possibility is the bishop b5 check line. That can be quite discombobulating for black. The main line is d4. And then if black, most people who play this variation as black will try to do this, where they're hoping for f3, and this is called the Portuguese variation. I'm told by some title players that this is near refuted, but it's incredibly tricky. And if black has more experience, he likely knows the tactical muddy waters a lot better than you do. So I had no interest in going for this. And for whatever reason, I didn't want to play c4. I just played knight f3. And then after bishop g4, bishop e2 was very calm so far. Queen takes d5, castles, knight c6. And I'll be honest, I didn't play very well throughout this opening. I mean, even here, black is probably... black's equalized, I think. He arguably has more space. He's just as developed. His queen can go anywhere. And in fact, he's ready to castle queenside, which is what happens in the game. I played c3. Well, we'll see why in a second. He castles d4. And my opponent misses his chance here. He should have played e5. And I play the Scandinavian. I know these positions. And this is a dream for black. Just look at this position here. He has he's more developed. Right? He has 3 minor pieces and his queen developed. I have 2 and I've castled. That's it. I've made more pawn moves. This is great. Also notice how hard it is for me to chase his queen. Normally you'd play knight c3, but because I have a pawn there, how do I chase the queen? I can't. There's also a lot of pressure on d4, and black has an easy game here, really easy game. So my whole opening was kind of, I figured that out. Fortunately, my opponent played e6, which is much more passive. And this gives me a chance to really unleash my plan, which was sort of my idea when I was trying to go through this position. I just overlooked e5. Maybe I wasn't calculating it. I'm not sure. Maybe it's because I was working 60 hours a week and I didn't have a chance to put as much thought as I could have. The main idea is it's similar to many Sicilians, or... well, many positions, really. It's opposite side castling. My king is on the king side, his king is on the queen side. And so, in these positions, the most important thing comes down to, well, generally it's the attack. Who's going to attack faster? Very common, again, in the Sicilians. We all know that. We start pushing pawns. And that's what I do here. I play b4. With the simple idea, I'm going to play b5, chase the knight away. Maybe I get a4, a5, and my pawns come this way. Black is likely going to do the same thing. He's going to want to play, let's see if I can change the color. Excellent. He's going to play h4, g4, and then either h5 or g5. He's going to open lines like so. And this is why I did not play h3 at any point. For instance, if we back up, even here, so black is just castled, I played d4. I could have played h3. Now, or anytime, actually, just put it on the board, actually, h3. I didn't do this for a couple of reasons. For one, I was always kind of sort of, gotta be careful, maybe black wants to do something like this. Or if he retreats, let me go here, maybe he does something like this. Where he sacrifice, he's going to get 2 pawns here, but all the open lines near my king. And we know that the attack is going to be the most important thing. My attack hasn't even started yet. So I was always slightly worried about this. But even if that didn't happen, there was a chance that black, after his bishop moves, is that he would be able to play g4, g5, and now he's hitting the pawn. Because I've created this weakness for him to hit. Notice how he hasn't moved any of his pawns, so it's going to take me a very long time for my pawns to get even close to him to open lines. That's why I didn't play it. h3, either now or throughout the rest of the game, in all honesty, is because I was worried about the attack. The attack is the most important thing in these positions. So anyway, that's why that didn't happen. So we go back, it's d4, e6, b4, he moved queen h5. And now we can see that h3 looks even worse. Because he can take, and I was really worried about this. It turns out that I didn't, well actually, it's hard to say. If I play correctly here, if I play knight g5, attacking the queen, queen moves somewhere, okay, h4, and then I play queen d3, I'm absolutely fine. The queen defends the 3rd rank, there's no attack against me, I'm up a piece, I'll be okay. The computer notes, though, that if I don't play these 2 moves, knight g5 and queen d3, then black is at the very least equal, and he has better practical chances. That is, it's much easier for white to make a mistake. And that's what I was feeling. I didn't want to play I didn't want to allow any of these possibilities. Now again, I don't play chess like a computer. I'm not a perfect calculator, and so there's no reason for me to try these h3 moves. I instead played b5. So I kicked his knight away, he moves back, and then this idea, it just came to me in a flash, b6. A pawn sacrifice. I'm not going to lie. Did I calculate? Okay, I did a little bit. I wanted to make sure that it was sound. I wanted to make sure that I get some counterplay. But really, the idea, it looked too promising not to do. Because look at this. Look what I've just done my last 3 moves, right? b4, b5, b6. It's almost inevitable. This pawn's just marching up the board. And now, after he takes the a pawn, of course. Now look at this. I've got the a file. My next move, of course, is queen a4. My queen is able to come in now. Notice that if you were to take with the other pawn, say, now, bishop on f4, either now or in the future, is now just slicing through. And then the same thing, if queen a4, it's now ridiculously hard to defend this pawn. He can't move his king over. If he tries to advance it, I can even sacrifice something on it. He's got weaknesses. And again, the most important thing in these opposite side castling positions, it isn't who has the most material. It doesn't matter if you have a pawn, if all the pieces are coming at you and you're about to be checkmated. So that's what I was feeling. I'm thinking, I've got to sacrifice the pawn. I could have played slower. The computer says I should have just played a4, a5, a6 or b6. Do it that way. Don't sacrifice the pawn. But it seems so great. And we'll see how strong my attack becomes. We look at this position, in fact, after he takes. This is move 10. I have 2 pieces developed. I have nothing even close to his king. In fact, he is a lot closer. Look, his queen's here, his bishop is here, his bishop can come to d6, attacking h2, his knight might come to f5, and then h4, say. He could still push his pawns, could do a rook lift, maybe. He's got pieces near my king. The thing is, though, I've sacrificed a pawn, I've increased the tempo, and my pieces are going to come out very quickly, And perhaps most important, I now have weaknesses to attack. Again, these pawns are now much weaker. I can plop a knight on b5. He never wants to play c6 to protect b5, because again, the bishop will come out, and the diagonal is very weak. Queen might come in. Maybe I can play a4, a5, open lines this way. I've got weaknesses near his king, which should be the most important thing. That's what I felt. That's why I did the sacrifice. Queen a5, threatening immediately queen a8 with lots of unpleasantness. So he moves his king over. King b8. All right, I bring a knight in. He moves his knight. I move my knight. And now just look what's happened. If we go back from here, all right, I've got no pieces near him, to here. Instantly, I've got a queen and a knight. I got some pressure now. His knight is now tied to the fence of the a7 square. And his attack hasn't gained any steam at all. He brings another knight into defense. All right, knight d5. Well, I kick it away. It comes here. Now my bishop comes in. Notice, so again, attacking c7 here, which is now all of a sudden has no defenders. He moves back knight a6. Now let's look at this again. Let's look back 10 moves, or sorry, 5 moves. This is move 10. I just sacrificed a pawn. He's got 2 pieces here, lots of pieces near my king. I've got nothing near him. We now go 5 moves here, just 5 moves later. Look how the situation has changed. Bishop attacking, knights attacking, queens attacking. I got pawns. Maybe I can play c5. Maybe I can play d5. Rook gonna slide. In fact, that's my next move, I believe. Yeah, rook to b1. And notice what's happened. Notice how fast my attack is coming. How my attack has generated. My pieces are near him. His attack is completely stalled. All for the price of a single pawn. I gave up 1 pawn, and I don't want to say the attack played itself. It didn't, but it allowed me to get my pieces into these very aggressive squares. In fact, it's hard to find a good move for black here. He played bishop e7. And in fact, at this point, his position is completely losing. Isn't that incredible? And I was able to dig in. I found this winning tactic. Knight takes c7. He took. I took. And here's where he resigned. He kind of a pity, really. Because if you first look at it, it's hard to say, well, why did he resign? Like, where's the compensation? But the closer you look, when you really dig deep into the tactics, you realize, oh crap, black is completely busted. So that was my thought process behind it. If we just back up again. From here, where are the arrows? I just saw them a couple seconds ago. Oh, come on. Here we go, right here. So I play b4 because we have opposite side castling. And so the idea is whose attack is faster. At this position, right now, it's black who's going to be faster. If we play normal moves, I think black, right? His knight comes, he's going to bring his knight to f5. It looks like black is going to do it. So I changed the tempo. I play b6. I sacrifice a pawn, so that way I have weaknesses to attack, and so that way my pieces can come in easier. Kick his knight away. Bring my bishop in. Bring my rook in. And now I've got everything going there. And then, because I've been able to improve my pieces, I've got good attacking prospects, I was able to cash in. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to break this down, and I'm going to, well, we're going to reverse engineer this. Can black improve? Where is it that black went wrong? Because, I'll be honest, for most of my first 10 moves, I played terribly. The computer's like, Smithy, why didn't you lose this game? And it was very possible for black to turn this around. So let's take a look at that now. So the first thing we should do is we should figure out what's the threat. Why did black resign? What is the move? So black does nothing here. What's the follow-up? And, well, honestly, okay, the pawn's pinned. So queen takes c6 is the move. Knight's pinned, pawn's pinned, king, everything's pinned. Queen takes b7 is next. That's the threat. In fact, there's even a cute move here. Queen a6 is also, it's pretty funny. Because again, the pawn's pinned, the knight's pinned, everything around the king is pinned, and the threat is queen takes b7. Unfortunately, knight a5 stops that, and, well, black is still lost after this, the computer says. But, I mean, there's no point in giving up a checkmate just for a move that looks good. So, the threat. This is the threat. The threat is queen takes c6. Or if you defend the knight, potentially queen a6, and then with checkmate to follow. That's the threat. And so then, is there any way to defend this? No. My first instinct when I was looking, maybe something like bishop b6 or something. But that actually does nothing. Is there any way to defend? Maybe it's rook takes d6. I think that's the move I was actually thinking of. Well, no, we take anyway. Can we perhaps get the king out of the way with king c8? Well, then that does stop the immediate queen takes c6, but it doesn't stop the attack. And after rook b1, followed by complete and utter devastation on b7, a7, it's the game is over. There's nothing. For instance, how do you defend b7? Maybe he plays knight a5, but then we're going to cash in like this. And this is probably the easiest way. The rook hits the queen. We're going to win the knight. There's still a huge attack on the king. We're not down material. Black is dead lost. So this is why black resigned. There is no defense here. It's either queen takes c6 or rook b1 with pressure here, this way. So let's back up 2 moves. So when I sacrifice the knight, knight takes c7, we now know that knight takes c7, rook takes b6. There's no defense. Queen takes c6 is coming. Can black not take the knight? Unfortunately, the answer again is no. Is there a possible move? Like, what can you do? One move, we might look at something, say, queen a5, where the queen is over here and it's trying to perhaps trade queens. Unfortunately, knight takes a6. It's discover check against the bishop. Then after we move, we'll just take, and move the knight somewhere. White's up a piece. And there's still an attack against the king. All of his pieces are better. And so that doesn't work. And if we don't do that, maybe we move the king. Maybe we play king c8. So now we're out of the way of the discover check, and we're out of the way of the rook. Unfortunately, the same move works. Knight takes a6. And now the problem is we can't take it. This is actually checkmate with the bishop and the queen coming in here. And so after knight takes c7, there is nothing better than knight takes c7. And so we have to go back further to find out where black can improve. So black played bishop e7. In fact, here just a few minutes ago, I mentioned it's hard to find a good move for black here. So let's dig in. We know the threat now is going to be knight takes c7. That's the trigger point. That's where white wants to cash in. So what can we do? How can we better defend that? One possibility is instead of bishop e7, what about bishop d6? And well, what will happen here is it's the same idea, slightly different, is the knight will take, pawn takes, rook takes. And now we've got the exact same problem coming in, is that the threat is either queen takes a6 or queen takes c6. There's also pressure on this pawn, and, well, what can black do? Rook f to b1. And spoiler alert, there's nothing black can do. He's in a completely losing position. In fact, he's not even down, he's not even up material. Material is equal in this position. Remember initially how white sacrificed the pawn? Well, we regained the pawn, and we're not even down a piece like we were a move ago. The best try, I don't know, maybe he tries to play king c8. So he's stepping off of the pin, but the attack still comes in. After rook takes, b takes, queen takes, well, it's check. And again, even if we don't calculate this position. We can just look at this after knight c7. Is that the king is defenseless. It's pinned. This pawn's going down. We've got rook b1 is coming. In fact, the computer says that c5 is the best move here. c5 is actually an incredible move because notice how the pawn is blocking. It's preventing the queen from coming over to a5 in any potential protection. So it's stopping that. And now the threat is bishop a6 followed by checkmate. Or it's pawn takes. Or it's bishop takes followed by checkmate. And black is absolutely crushed. So bishop d6, it doesn't work. Because again, the real problem, this makes sense, isn't that, we back up, isn't so much the knight is taking here. The problem is the, after a move, the knight takes, and then the b file completely opens up for the rooks, because then the pawn is pinned. This explains also why a move like rook c8 doesn't work, trying to defend the pawn. Because again, the pawn isn't the problem. We simply take the pawn, rook takes b6, and it's the b file we can see is the problem, because it is this pin which threatens queen takes a6 or queen takes c6. The bishop is also pinning the rook in this particular variation. This perhaps gives us an idea for black's defense. Maybe he can block the b file with, for instance, knight b4. Because it makes more sense than anything else, does it not? Notice how also the knight is protecting the c6 knight, so that way queen takes c6 is met by knight takes c6. So this is black's best, the best try. Unfortunately, again, it doesn't work. And again, this makes perfect sense. Again, if we think of it positionally, is just that all of white is attacking. White has like 8,000 pieces attacking, and most of black's defenders are pinned. And so it makes sense that white is able to cash in. After rook b5, the computer says is the best move. It hits the queen, and it prevents the queen, for instance, from ever coming in to a5. Similar to the c5 move I showed a minute ago. So after rook b5, the queen has to move. And then the simplest way is we simply take, knight e5. And so the knight is hitting the queen, the knight is hitting the bishop, and if the knight takes the knight, queen a5, and this is mate in 8, the computer says. And we can actually see that if we're just slink in and there's no pawns defending the king, and the queen and rook are just too strong. Checkmate. That's just one possible variation we can see here. If I had an hour, I'd list them all here, but we can simply say from here, well, it's pretty dismal for black, and it's just obvious checks you're going to take here. So let's back up. Whoops, too far. Here. Is there anything else? Again, if we go back to the theme of blocking the b file, then perhaps bringing the bishop to b4 is the idea. Because again, it's not so much that c7 is going to fall, but it's that the b file, because now there's a whole bunch of things in the b file, the rook can't come in with the attack. It's a good idea. And I'll be honest, during the game, I wasn't really sure what I was going to do here if this were to happen. I could just play a3. That's possible. But the best move is h3. And, well, black has a terrible choice here. I just suggested he takes, but it doesn't really matter what he does, because we're going to follow up with knight e5. The problem is the knight's attacking the knight, and the bishop is attacking the queen. And so the only real move for black would be to take here, but after knight takes c6, pawn takes, queen takes, is that, again, white has just, this attack is crashing in. It doesn't matter what black do. Again, the threat here is queen a7, and then queen c7 checkmate. If he takes the knight, there's a whole bunch of things, but queen takes b6, again, taking advantage of this pin. And then after king a8, bishop c7, it's checkmate. The threat is queen a6, check and mate. There's nothing black can do. Oh, the computer points out, okay, you can sacrifice the queen. But it's still going to be checkmate. That's the threat. That's the problem. And so there we go. Now if we back up here, it's true. Black doesn't have to move his bishop or take. He could take the knight. Right? But after bishop takes, we can see that, well, this doesn't really help at all, because now, for one, the queen's attacked, so the queen will have to move somewhere. But now the bishop is added to the attack. And again, in the previous variation, it was knight takes c6 that started. At any point, the bishop can take c6. And in fact, now the pressure returns back to c7 here. And so, after bishop takes, knight takes, again, we come in on the b file. And this now allows the very first threat in the game, really, queen a7, and then it's queen takes b, and we can just see here that black is toast. Black is done. The attack is too strong. So that's the problem. Sorry, I'll go too fast. I keep going. The arrows are too strong here. So at this point, right, I noted that black. It's hard to find a black. It's because black is losing in this position. Doesn't matter if he blocks the b file. Doesn't matter if he protects c7. White's attackers are too. There's too many, and there's too many weak spots. So let's back up. Right here. So I had just played. Can I back up one more move here? I had just played bishop f4, targeting c7, and black plays the most natural move. He plays knight a6. But we now realize that after rook b1, he's losing. There's no good follow-up. So is there a better move than knight a6? Because look at this. The knight is already blocking the b file. Right? So if we can keep the knight there, that's a win. Is there a better way to defend this pawn? Well, let's take a look. Let's look at bishop d6. Is this a better move? Well, we'll take it. He takes back. Okay, here comes the b file. Now what? The threat is simply to take. So if he does nothing, we can just take queen a7 might be possible, but just taking here, we've got two pieces for the rook, and then we've also got rook b1, and black has no defenders. Again, queen come back to a4. That's the threat. And honestly, the only move that black could do would be to come back here with knight a6. And we've got the same problems. This pawn is going to be weak. All we have to do is move the knight at some point, and there's going to be devastation on the b file. And the computer suggests that the following very pretty line is the best. Is after h3, forcing the bishop away. Knight e5. And this is another theme that we've seen, is that this bishop hitting the queen, so this knight jump is always forcing the queen to do something. Black would love to be able to just take d takes e5, but we've got to discover attack, even though the bishop's completely free. That allows knight takes c6, then queen takes a6, and that's all she wrote. And this is checkmate quite easily. Backing up. Bishop d6, it might hold out longer, the computer says, but it doesn't work. Is there another possibility? What if we play something like rook c8? Rook c8 allows the exact same tactic, in fact, knight e5. This is brilliant. Notice how the knight and the bishop are attacking this bishop, so white's threatening to win a piece. If you take like this, that's checkmate. If you take like this, that's checkmate. And so knight e5 just completely destroys black. There's what can you do? Perhaps the best move would be knight a6. But at the very least, he's losing a piece, right? So, and the queen's... Is the queen trapped? And the queen's trapped too. But the computer points out that knight d7 is even stronger. And we're going to see, again, these similar themes. c7's a weak. And then this is actually a very pretty checkmate. We see how the themes are starting to really coalesce here. is the b file is weak. c7 is a trigger spot. If something can sacrifice itself on c7, or we saw in the last variation after bishop d6, take, where the c pawn moved, the b6 weakness is huge. And then the final theme in this position is the relationship between the queen, the bishop, and this bishop. Because during the game, the more I had to be very careful because I wanted to move the knight somewhere, of course. But the bishop would be hanging. And it's really easy to get stuck on that point. But if we can force the bishop to move somewhere, even if it takes here, and then we can play knight e5, now the situation is completely reversed. And it's the bishop that's attacking the queen. The knight's free to move. So that was a very interesting theme, which I didn't really see during the game, but by analyzing it after, especially with computer help, I was able to, wow, interesting. That's one of the main things I picked up from this game. Sort of, though, the point we wanted to look at, though, is that there was nothing better than knight a6. Let's back up. Right here. So I had played c4, hitting the knight, and he made the very natural move, knight to b4. Is there a better move? How can we defend better? Because knight to b4, it's blocking the b file, and it seems to be doing everything we want it to be. Is there a better move to defend? If you're asking that, if that's the question you're asking, that's a trap. That's the exact thought process my opponent used, I imagine. And that led him to knight b4, which looks like it's the best move. But we now realize that after, bishop f4, there's nothing better than knight a6, and we know he's losing at this point. So there has to be a better move than knight b4. And you might be thinking, but that's impossible. The knight's being attacked by the pawn. No, we don't want to think about what's the best defense. We want to think about what's the best move. If I were to ask you, this is a tactical puzzle. Black to move and win. What are you thinking? What do you think right now? Now, it's not black to move to win. It isn't. But if you think that way, then you're going to find bishop d6, which is the best move. The computer says it's essentially a draw at this point. Isn't that crazy? Now, what's the idea? What's the threat? Well, the idea is if white does nothing, okay, well, we're going to take the knight and then checkmate on h2. That's the threat. And that's a pretty darn powerful threat. So after bishop d6, right, I take the knight, we take back. Threatening checkmate. What do you do? If you do something like this, we've even got bishop takes a2 now. The bishop can even come back and take c6. The bishop's helping defend. Wow. White has to be extremely careful that we don't just get a situation like this and this. Or that's going to be checkmate. After bishop d6, the best move is h3. And then after black then sacrifices this way. Bishop takes h3. And at this point, no matter what you do, it's going to be a draw. It's going to be a perpetual check. For example, if we take the bishop, queen takes, I take his knight. So white's just doing absolutely fantastic in terms of material, but there's no defense to this perpetual check. We can't block with the knight because of the bishop. That'd be checkmate. That's just one possibility. This is a really interesting position after h3. Because there's lots of things we could do. We don't have to take. Maybe we use one of those themes. Knight e5. So now the bishop's attacking the queen. Okay, so take. Interesting. Take. Maybe I come in now. Take. And now, whose king is in more danger? That's the question we have to ask. And the problem is that white, in all previous variations, he already had his rook over here. He's ready to cash in on the b file. But because black has moved faster, black isn't just sitting there and defending and letting white come at him. He's the one coming at white as well. White doesn't have this resource. And after the following possibility, take, g takes h3. Note that the very tempting queen a8, queen d7, picking up a rook, that'd be absolutely perfect, except for queen g4. And then it's going to be that checkmate we just looked at a few seconds ago. And so you would have to take this. And now we got an incredible variation, e5. Just look at this attack is coming in. Black is ignoring the fact that his knight is attacked, because now he wants to move his rook over. Then he brings his queen, and it's just going to be devastation over here. And so the best... and then this move is absolutely key. Because if we just move the king, oh shoot, that's going to be checkmate. And so instead, we block with the bishop, so that way after he takes, he moves his king, because now the rook is defended. This is incredible, and this is why you need a computer to help analyze some of these variations after, because it's so easy to mistake a move. Because when I first looked at this variation, I thought, oh crap, I think black is winning. I think black is winning after knight e5. But that bishop g5 move, oh, beautiful. And we look at this position. It's absolutely crazy, and the most likely result is going to be a perpetual check of some kind. In fact, we actually look at it material. What is material count? Black is up a pawn, but it doesn't matter, because his king is weak, my king is weak, and the computer says there will be a perpetual check. Incredible. Just amazing. But let's go back. The thing is, all those variations are nice, and all of them are incredible. And I could probably do like an hour just on this position, going and looking at it very deeply. I don't want to do that because there's more to see here in this game. But look at that thought process. If we asked ourselves here, how do I defend, right? What's the threat? And we think the automatic knight b4, okay, that's how we lose the game. Because after this point, we know black is lost. After bishop out, there's nothing he can do anymore. If he finds bishop d6, he saves the game. He might even win the game, right? This is the move, because it's the best move. It isn't just how do I defend against the threat, it's you figure out what your opponent's threat is, and then you counterattack if you can. What are my threats? What can I do? And if you can threaten checkmate in 2 moves, bishop takes f3 and then queen takes, you do that. My opponent missed that. So if we back up 2 moves again. So this is the position before, where he played knight d5. So if I ask you, what's black's best move, what do you think? You're darn right. Bishop d6 is the best move in this position. Again, with a counterattack. And it doesn't matter that knight takes d6 is possible. All right? Because after rook takes d6, I want to play rook f4, rook d5. In this position, black is better. Not by a lot, but we can just see. Remember how fast my attack was? We saw how fast? How many pieces am I attacking with right now? I got my queen. It's doing something, I guess, and my bishop is sort of attacking. But the real threat was always this knight here, because the knight was pressuring a7. The knight could sacrifice on c7. Knight and the bishop combined attacks, and they force a defender of c7. But now that's all gone. I don't really have an attack. At any point, he can play rook a5 and kick my queen away, and then continue on attacking by himself. Or he doesn't need to attack, because he's up a pawn. He can just start trading down if he felt like it. Right? This is a very good position for black. So we now know that in this position, knight d5 is a mistake. Now, it's not a losing mistake, but it makes black go from, again, potentially bishop d6, where he's doing better, to here, where we now know after bishop d6, it's likely perpetual check. Let's back up one more move. Here. So I had just played knight a3, and my opponent played knight c6, which is a mistake. And this is a hard move to find. The reason it's a hard move to find is that it's very Well, again, remember what I said at the very beginning? And there's a reason we both missed this move. My opponent, again, my opponent is rated 1900. He fluctuated between those two ratings during the month that we played. So he's a good player. He did not consider Queen A5. And of course not, because I'm attacking, he's attacking, he wants to have his queen facing my king. We understand that. If you were to play, and then that's why he played knight c6, so he could bring his knight in to defend. That makes perfect sense. His bishop can now come out. That's a good move. But Queen A5 is probably the winning move, if you will. I can't exchange, because I'm simply down a pawn for no compensation at this point. So I would have to do something else. If I retreat, he's able to bring his knight into d5 now. He's pressuring this pawn. And if I keep trying to... He brings another knight in. And just look at black's pieces. It's true, he's not attacking on the king side, but he's playing right in the center. He's attacking very well in the center. And if the center falls, your whole game falls apart. His queen is expertly placed to block all my advances. There's nothing how do I increase my pressure? This knight is also blocking my bishop if I ever come to f4. I don't know what to do in this position, even with computer help. It looks ugly. It looks terrible. And this is why my b6 idea doesn't work, if we back up. I played b6. He takes queen a5. And either now or on the next, at any point, black always has queen a5, which is a move I didn't consider. It's a hard move to find. And how do you find such of these moves? These are the questions we have to ask. And again, the threat is queen a8. We know that. And we think the only move is king b8, which is a good move. It's a fine move. And after knight a3, we know that we want to come in with knight b5. That's the idea. Because once the knight comes to b5, then that stops any queen a5 idea from black. But we need to realize in such a position that it's okay. If black can exchange queens, he's up a pawn, he's going to win. Or at the very least, he's going to have a much better endgame. And if you were to think that, instead, we were thinking, almost certainly both of us, that I'm trying to attack on this side, he's attacking on this side, so he should keep his queen there. But there's also the flip side. He's up material. If he can exchange queens, do it. And after this move, well, the computer doesn't say that black is winning, but black has nearly a pawn advantage. So that's it. That also shows, though, is how fast a game can turn. In this position, black could be winning by a pawn. In this position, he's winning by about half a pawn. So he's got, a slight to a medium advantage if he can find bishop d6. One move later, all of a sudden it's equal. The best black can do is perpetual check. And now black is losing. Right? That's how fast chess can turn. In a span of 4 moves, it goes from better to a little bit better to equal to losing. And we saw that these moves they're fairly natural moves, right? Knight c6 makes a heck of a lot of sense. Knight d5, bring the knight closer, makes sense. Blocking the b file makes sense. Protecting c7 makes sense. But that loses, right? Because we need to dig in deeper. We need to understand it's not just what is my opponent's threat, how do I defend? It's what is my opponent's threat, now what are my threats? How can I attack? Because if my opponent did that, he doesn't lose this game. There's a good chance he wins this game. And this is something I need to do better myself. Because did I notice these bishop d6 ideas? Maybe a little bit. No, of course. I've given myself too much credit. I noticed them after the game, and the computer put a giant exclamation mark on them. The counterattack is so important. So if we could just go through that game one more time. Now, there's a lot more mistakes. Again, I think it's already been 45 minutes. Frig, I hope you really like my videos if you're still watching at this point. There are so many more mistakes. There are so many things I could dive into this game. Even though it's only 20 moves long, chess is that deep. But just let's look at this game from the beginning, just so quickly. We reach this position, or I played the silly move c3. I don't know why I played c3. d4. My opponent could have played e5, but he didn't. That's okay. And now we get this opposite side castling position, which dominates the whole theme of this game. Whose attack is faster? I'm okay with sacrificing a pawn, because I play queen a5, and I know I've got a fast attack. Now black has one real defense, and that's to bring his queen to a5. And when he doesn't do that, when he plays two natural moves instead, this gives me a foothold back into the game. He plays knight d, which makes perfect sense. But I'm going to kick him away. And now c7 is a target. And now the b file is a target. And then it all comes together. Isn't that amazing? If we go back 2 moves right here, I've got nothing. My attack isn't doing anything at this point. But once we all of a sudden we add c7, then we add the b file, then it all comes together with this attack. So there we go. I hope you can see why I found this game interesting now. Again, it's very, very deep. It's worth some study. Maybe I'll study it more. I'll make a blog post about it, so that way, it doesn't take 6 hours to actually watch the video, just with me explaining variations, explaining my ideas. So look for that in the future. I'm no longer working 60 hours a week. I'm only working 50 hours a week, so that's a huge step up. So maybe I can make more chess videos. If you're still watching, thank you. Comments, feedback, tell me if you enjoyed that. Tell me if that was useful. Tell me if that was too long. When I start talking about chess, I really get into it. And, well, there we go. Okay, so comments, feedback. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I'm sorry it took so long. Bye.